In this video, I'm going to show you how to integrate Calendly and Pardot. This video is part of our Automation of the Week series. Every Tuesday, we'll publish a new video that shows you step by step how to build out an automation to help automate your processes. So today, we're going to take a look at Calendly and get that connected to Pardot. So there's actually a few different options available to you if you want to get Calendly data into Pardot. The first is the standard Calendly integration for Salesforce. The way that works is it's actually using the Salesforce API to create a new lead or a new contact if somebody fills out that Calendly form. Another option you have is to use a piece of middleware like Zapier to create a new Pardot prospect using that Pardot API. And then there's the third way, which is my preferred method, which I think is the best, is to actually use a form handler. So the reason why a form handler is so good is because that activity of a prospect filling out a Calendly form and setting an appointment with you, that comes across in the system as a form fill. And it has all the benefits of a form fill. One would be reporting. So when you're looking at the activity of a prospect, you can see that they submitted that Calendly form. They signed up for a demo or an introduction call or something like that. The second one is around automation. So if you're using a form handler, you get all the benefits that normally come with form completion actions. So you can then easily add them to different lists or engagement programs, send an autoresponder email, create tasks, etc. And it's pretty easy to manage as well. It's much easier to manage if you've got Pardot than using that standard Calendly Salesforce integration. So the first thing we're going to need to do is create a form handler. And then I'll show you how in Calendly, when somebody submits that calendar invitation, that calendar form, how that would then redirect through Pardot and trigger that form handler. So step one, click on the Content tab in Pardot and go to Form Handlers. Then click on the Add Form Handler button, and we'll just call this Calendly Submission Demo. And you can put that in a folder. Of course, you need to associate a campaign. I'm just going to use website tracking for now. But typically, you would want this form handler to be associated with whatever campaign is most appropriate. The other good thing about this method, actually, is that you can create multiple form handlers associated with different campaigns, with different completion actions, depending on your needs. So you can get pretty advanced with it if you have a lot of different Calendly submissions that are happening. Our success location and error location are both set up to the referring URL. I recommend that you actually change the success location to a thank you page that you need to build. Maybe there's already one on your website that you can point to. For the purpose of this demo, though, I'm just going to send it to our homepage, rotive.io. And then under that, you can add any completion actions that you might want to have, like adding to a campaign or assigning to somebody. And then underneath that, you can include all of the form fields that you want to capture when somebody submits that Calendly form. So email is required. So that's already been added here for us. But let's say we wanted to add first name and last name. Now, one thing to note with a form handler, you're specifying what that external field name is. So for now, I'm just going to put in the word first, but we're going to have to come back here and make sure that that external field name is correct and it is using whichever word Calendly uses to represent that first name or last name. I'm going to take off the requirement. Typically, you don't want to have too many fields that are required on a form handler because really those should be required at the UI stage. So in Calendly, they should be required. Otherwise, we're just going to run into issues where we're rejecting that form submission because we don't have all the data. Typically, I'd rather have some of the data than none of it. Then go and hit Create Form Handler. And now let's go take a look at Calendly. So in Calendly, you'll have a bunch of different events that you can create. And so I created one called Free Demo Test. And obviously, we've got quite a few other ones here. Create your event and then come down to the confirmation page settings. And here you can decide what you want Calendly to do once that calendar submission has been made. So right now it says display Calendly confirmation page, but instead we're going to change that to redirect to an external site. And so come back to Pardot here and pay attention to this endpoint URL here. That's our form handler's endpoint. Select the HTTPS version, copy that, and that's where we want to forward the person who signed up on Calendly. Now, underneath the redirect URL is a checkbox that says pass event details to your redirected page. So we absolutely want to check that because what's going to happen when you check that is after this URL will be a series of parameters, which would be the data that was submitted by the user. We want to pass that into Pardot. So we definitely want that to be included when they get redirected. Click the Learn More button to get a little more information and documentation on exactly how this works. So we scroll down a little bit. What I want to see here are the names of the fields that Calendly is using. So it's naturally going to pass the email address and the name of the person, maybe their company name as well in that URL, but we just don't know what word Calendly is using to describe it. Right at the top of the page is a link here that says information you can send in the redirect URL. Click on that, and then here are all of our variables. So we could send the name of the event, right? The unique identifier for the event as well, and a bunch of other values here too. The most important ones for Pardot, though, are going to be the invitee email, first name, last name as well, and possibly UTM values too, if you're using that in your campaign. Also want you to notice that there's custom answers here that are also options. So when you set up that event in Calendly, you can choose to ask additional questions, and those can be transferred into Pardot as well. You have to keep in mind what order you created those questions in, because that's how it'll be determined whether it's answer 1, answer 2, etc. For our test here, all we need though is the email, first name, and last name. So go ahead and copy the name of that variable, start with email, and come back into Pardot. Now, if you look here under form field mappings, we had named email just email, and that's not going to work for Calendly. Let's go ahead and click edit, and let's change that. Paste in invitee email, and let's do the same thing with first name and last name. So Calendly here calls this invitee first name, paste that in, and last name as well. Then hit Save Form Handler. Okay, now that we have this, Pardot is ready to capture these field values from the URL when the user gets redirected through our form handler. To test it out, come back into Calendly and view the live page of your event. Also, make sure you hit Save first. Hit Save, then click View Live Page. And let's say I'm going to schedule some time tomorrow, 8 a.m. You know what? Here's one thing to note too. You can see that name is just one field. This isn't great for Pardot because Pardot has first name and last name as separate fields. So let's actually make a quick change and let's break out that first and last name. You can do that by coming back to the event settings and clicking Edit next to the name section. Name input, we can switch from just name to first name and last name. Hit Save and Close again, and then hit View Live Page. All right, let's try booking tomorrow, 8 a.m. I'll put in an email address here, and you could add any other comments that you might want just beneath that. So when I hit Schedule Event, what this should do, instead of showing us a standard Calendly confirmation page, it should redirect us through that form handler, and then because our success location was set to rotive.io, it should then forward us again onto rotive.io. Click Schedule Event. You can see it says redirecting. And there we go. Now we're at rotive.io. If we come back into Pardot, hit refresh, we should see we have a prospect underneath this form handler. There it is. So that's how you connect Calendly to Pardot using a form handler. And you can take this a step further by creating multiple form handlers that are going to be triggered by different Calendly events, or you can use conditional completion actions to take a look at a parameter that you're sending into Pardot, like the unique identifier or the name of the event. And then you can have different completion actions for different forms, all within one form handler. Now, typically, I would recommend creating different form handlers because it's just going to be easier for you to report on later, unless you have way too many and it would be too challenging to keep those updated and maintain them, in which case perhaps one or just a few form handlers would be better with those conditional completion actions. Thanks for watching our automation of the week. If you found this valuable, please hit that like button and click subscribe for more.